The Knock That Wouldn't Stop urban horror story. This happened when I was 29, a time when life felt both exciting and uncertain. I'm Tasha, and back then I was living alone in a small one-bedroom on the west side of Atlanta, a city that never truly sleeps. Not the worst part of the city, but definitely not the kind of place you leave your door unlocked either, even for a moment. The kind of neighborhood where everybody minds their own business, and if you hear yelling or banging next door, you just turn your TV up and keep it moving, pretending it's not happening. I worked late nights at a call center doing customer service for one of those big cable companies, the kind that never stops ringing. The kind of job that drains your soul but keeps the lights on, barely. By the time I got home, usually right after midnight, I was too tired to even take off my shoes before crashing on the couch, my sanctuary. But this one night, I never made it to bed. Something felt different, unsettling. It started with a knock, not loud, just light, the kind of knock you might almost miss if you weren't paying attention. Quick, 3 knocks, tap, 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 each one spaced just enough to make you wonder if you imagined it. At first I ignored it, thought maybe somebody hit the wrong door. It happens all the time in my building, especially late at night. We had this one drunk dude that always came home to the wrong floor, so I brushed it off, thinking it was just another mix-up. Then tap, 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 same rhythm, same pause. 3 knocks, 3 more just as deliberate as before. Now I'm frowning, sitting up on the couch trying to listen. The hallway outside my apartment is echoey, every little sound bounces and lingers. But this felt too close. I walked up to the peephole and looked out. Nothing. Hallway was empty, no footsteps, no shadows, just silence, just the hum of the exit light flickering at the end of the hall, so I backed away from the door, figured maybe it was kids or something harmless. But before I could even sit down again, my heart was already racing, waiting for what might come next. It came again, that same unmistakable sound that had haunted me before, only this time it was coming from my balcony door. The noise was sharper, closer, impossible to ignore. Now here's the thing, I lived on the 3rd floor, not exactly ground level, not somewhere you'd expect visitors. Ain't no fire escape, no ladder, no reason anybody should be out there. So when I heard that sound, my heart just stopped. It was like the world froze for a second. I crept toward the sliding glass door, slow. Every step felt loud, echoing in the silence. My hands were shaking, my breath shallow. When I peeked through the blinds, there was a man, crouched low, right on my balcony rail as if he belonged there. His hood was pulled up tight, face covered with a ski mask. The only thing I could see were his eyes, wide, unblinking, cold and calculating. I dropped the blinds so fast they clapped against the glass. My chest locked up. I didn't scream, didn't move, just backed up, step by step, trying not to make a sound, barely daring to breathe. My phone was already in my hand, so I called 911, whispering. The dispatcher was calm, asking me questions like, "Ma'am, do you know him? And can you see what he's doing?" Her voice was steady, but I was anything but I couldn't talk, could barely breathe. She said, "Stay on the line," but I couldn't. My heart was pounding so loud I swore he could hear it through the damn glass. Every second stretched on forever. Then I heard the handle move, not shaking, just testing, like he was checking the lock. Slow, careful, like he knew I was in there watching, frozen in fear. I grabbed the kitchen knife from my counter, my hands slick with sweat, and then nothing. The rattling stopped. The silence was worse. Every second felt like an hour, stretching out endlessly. I tried to listen for sirens. Nothing. It's Atlanta. You can hear police from miles away, but that night, not a sound, just the heavy silence pressing in. That's when my phone buzzed. The sudden vibration jolted me, snapping me out of my frozen state. The message said, "Why you close the blinds?" My heart just about stopped. I froze. My mouth went dry. He had my number. My mind was spinning. How? Did I know him? Did he see me on the balcony before? Did I slip up somehow? Then another text came through. "You home alone, right?" I dropped the phone, ran straight to the bathroom, locked myself in, turned the lights off and sat on the floor, clutching that knife so tight my hands started to cramp. It was too quiet, that kind of quiet that presses against your ears, like the whole world stopped moving. Then there was this soft, metallic scraping sound. From the hallway I heard the sound of metal scraping against my front lock. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out, just breath shaking in my chest. He had gone back to my front door, then the door swung open. Heavy boots hit the floor, slow, deliberate, one step, another, and then nothing. I don't remember much after that. Just noise, my own scream, the sound of boots running, the crash of something heavy. When the cops finally came, an hour later, they checked my place, said someone had climbed from balcony to reach mine. They found cigarette butts on my balcony, 3 of them, lined up perfectly in a row, toying with me. They said it looked like he'd been watching me for a while. I moved out the next morning to a friend's place. Didn't even pack everything, just left. But to this day, whenever I hear that same pattern, tap, 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 I freeze, because I never changed my number. And every few months around midnight, I still get that same text. Why'd you close the blinds? What would you have done if this happened to you? Don't keep it to yourself. Please comment below. And if real horror is your thing, subscribe to the YouTube channel Sites of Horror and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. The Man at the Bus Stop Urban Horror Story. This happened when I was 22. My name's Ariel, and I was just trying to get home from my night shift at the hospital. I didn't have a car back then, so I took the last bus from downtown, Route 49. If you've ever worked nights in the city, you know that weird quiet that hits around 1 a.m. The kind that ain't peaceful, just empty. The streets look different, almost abandoned, and the people you do see out there, they don't always feel safe to be around. That night was cold, wind cutting through my scrubs even with my jacket zipped up. The streetlights on my block had been out for months, and the city still hadn't fixed them. So when I got off the bus, it was just me, a half-mile walk, and pure darkness ahead. I always told myself to walk fast, keep my head down, and mind my business. But that night, halfway down the street, I saw him. There was this man sitting on the bench by the corner store, hoodie pulled low over his face, just sitting there, very still. At first, I thought maybe he was waiting for someone. People do that all the time, waiting on a ride, smoking, talking to nobody. So I brushed it off. But as I got closer, he stood up. "Hey, shorty," he said, voice low and rough like he'd been chewing gravel. "You out here late, huh?" I didn't respond, just kept walking, didn't even look at him. I could hear his footsteps behind me, slow at first, then matching my pace. I crossed the street, so did he. I walked faster. He did too. That's when my heartbeat got loud in my ears, that deep, heavy thump you can feel in your throat. I pulled out my phone, pretending to call someone. "Yeah, I'm almost home," I said loud, hoping he'd hear. "You at the door, right?" But he didn't back off. Instead, he said something that made every hair on my body stand up. "I know you ain't got nobody waiting, Ariel." I froze mid-step. He knew my name. My name. And that's when my stomach dropped, because he said it so casual, like we'd known each other for years. I turned around slowly, and for the first time I saw his face. He stepped forward into the faint light from a passing car, and that's when I realized he was wearing my old job hoodie. I used to work at a rehab center before I got the hospital job. I lost that hoodie months ago at a laundromat. I knew it was mine because it had this bleach stain on the right sleeve, a perfect shape of a crescent moon. My mind was spinning. How the hell did he get that? He must have seen the confusion on my face, because he smiled and said, "Been seeing you get off that bus. You always look down when you pass me. Thought I'd walk you home this time." My throat went dry. I didn't say a word. I just turned and ran. I don't even remember deciding to. My body just moved. I heard him behind me, his footsteps slapping the pavement, fast, heavy, determined. The neighborhood was dead silent except for that sound, two sets of footsteps echoing off the brick walls. I cut through the alley behind the liquor store. I knew it was risky, but it was shorter, and at that point I just needed to get off that street. My lungs burned and my scrubs stuck to my skin from sweat and cold air. I could still hear him, closer now. He wasn't yelling, wasn't saying a thing, just chasing. I made it to my apartment building, ran up the cracked concrete steps, and shoved my key into the door. The second it opened, I threw myself inside, slammed it shut, and locked it twice. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my phone. I picked it up and called 911, but before anyone answered, I looked through the peephole. He was there, standing in the hallway, not running, not pounding on the door, not saying a word, just smiling, and in his hand he was holding a key, my old apartment key. The one I lost 6 months before. When the cops showed up, he was gone. They searched the block, even looked through the stairwells and alleyways, but nothing. I tried to explain everything, how he knew my name, how he had my hoodie and my key, but they just looked at each other. Then one of them said, "Well, he didn't technically break in, ma'am. That technically messed me up more than anything. They told me to file a report and maybe stay somewhere else for a few days. I didn't stay a few days. I moved out by the end of the week. For a while, I thought maybe it was over. I found a new apartment across town, different route, different schedule. I even bought a little car just so I wouldn't have to take the bus no more. But the human mind don't ever really forget fear. It just learns how to walk around it. Every night after work, I still look over my shoulder when I get home. I still check my locks twice, sometimes 3 times, and sometimes when I pull up to a red light, I swear I see him, standing at a bus stop on the other side of the street. Same hoodie, same smile, just waiting. The city don't care about broken streetlights, but sometimes I wonder if it's better that way, because when the lights go out, you can't see who's watching, and maybe that's the only thing keeping you alive. Real horror doesn't need monsters, just people. What did you find the creepiest in this story? Please let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more twisted true horror stories from the YouTube channel Sites of Horror. The Apartment Below Mine, Urban Horror Story. This happened last year. My name's Keisha. I'm 34, born and raised on the south side of Chicago. At that point, life was pretty simple. I had a steady job at a health clinic downtown. No kids, no drama. Just me, my plants, and my playlist to drown out the noise of the city. When I found that apartment, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. It was in one of those old brick buildings they'd just renovated. You know, new paint, fresh floors, but still that creak when you walk too heavy. The rent was low, utilities included, and the landlord didn't bother you unless you were late. Perfect setup for a woman who just wanted peace. But there was something off about the apartment below mine, apartment 2B. At first it just seemed empty. The blinds were always shut tight, no TV sounds, no lights, no footsteps, no door opening, no smells of cooking, nothing. Just silence. The kind that don't sit right with you in a city like Chicago where you can usually hear somebody arguing, laughing, moving around. Still, I told myself, maybe whoever lived there worked nights. Maybe they were just private. Until one night, around 3 a.m., I was half asleep when I heard what sounded like a scream. It wasn't loud, it was muffled, like someone trying not to be heard. Then came the footsteps, heavy, slow, right under my bedroom floor. Then nothing. No more sound, no movement, just stillness. I laid there staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was a TV or maybe somebody's drunk argument. You hear all kinds of stuff in apartments. But when I stepped out the next morning, something stopped me cold. The hallway carpet outside my door was damp, had footprints, as if someone had been hanging out in front of my door as I slept. And it smelled metallic. Not musty, not like a leak, more like blood and cleaning supplies. By the weekend things got weirder. I started hearing hammering from downstairs, but not during the day. At night, always between 2 and 3 a.m., the kind of hammering that was too slow to be maintenance work, too deliberate, tap, 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 like nails being driven into wood. It wasn't just a sound, it was a rhythm, a message. After the second night of that, I called the landlord. He sounded half asleep when he picked up, but I asked him straight, "Hey, who's staying in 2B? They've been doing work down there at night." He paused, then said, "2B's empty, Keisha. Has been for months. No one's leased it yet." That night, I didn't sleep. The hammering started again, louder, and then came this dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. It went on for minutes. Scrape, scrape. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. I went to my balcony to see if I could catch whoever was down there. From the corner of my balcony I could look down into 2B. I saw something, movement through the blinds of 2B. The slats were cracked open just enough to see a shadow moving around inside. That's when I saw him. A man, big build, maybe 6'2", wearing a gray hoodie, hood up. He had a tarp laid out on the floor, and something wrapped up in a white sheet. He was using duct tape, a lot of it. Long, slow strips, ripping, smoothing it down, wrapping again. I froze, didn't even breathe for a second. My whole body went cold, like my blood just stopped moving. I backed away from the railing, grabbed my phone, and called the cops. They came about 20 minutes later, knocked on his door, waited, then came up to talk to me, said nobody answered, and without probable cause they couldn't enter. They looked tired, like they'd seen this routine before. I tried to explain what I saw, the hammering, the dragging, the smell, but they just shrugged, said maybe it was a squatter or somebody doing repairs without notice. Then they left. The next day I went to work early just to get away from the building. When I came home that evening, the smell hit me before I even reached my door. That same metallic scent, but stronger now, mixed with bleach. It was so strong I covered my nose with my shirt. I thought about calling the landlord again, but something in my gut said don't. He'd already brushed it off once, so I decided to get proof. That night I left my phone recording near the vent, the one that connected to 2B's unit. Then I turned off the lights, laid in bed, and waited. At first, all I could hear on the recording was faint city noise, sirens, cars, someone arguing outside. Then the hammering started again, followed by dragging, then muffled cries, someone was down there, then silence. But at the very end of the recording, there was something else. A whisper so faint I had to replay it 3 times. It said, "Why you listening, Keisha?" I don't even remember packing. I just grabbed my keys and ran. Left everything, clothes, furniture, all of it. I didn't even lock the door behind me. Next morning I called the police again from my cousin's house. When they went back to check, they had to seal off the entire second floor. They said they found things in 2B plastic bins, chains bolted into the floor, and multiple ID cards from missing women across the city. They never found the man. I moved to another side of town after that, got a new job, tried to move on. But sometimes when I'm lying in bed just before I fall asleep, I swear I can still hear it, that faint hammering coming from somewhere deep in the walls. Tap, tap, tap. And to remember whoever was in 2B knew my freaking name. You made it to the end, but some don't. If you want to keep going deeper into the darkness, hit that subscribe button. The YouTube channel Sights of Horror is waiting for you.